everybody, it's Gil and Swab with me here today, back to another grilling video. Somebody just got up and she's having a snack. Today we're going to be doing baby back ribs. We're just using this Smithfield brand. This is one that you can find in most of your local grocery stores. Down here in Southwest Florida, all of the grocery stores by us carry this same brand. So really simple. We're going to be doing what they call the 3-2-1 method. It's basically 3 hours of smoke, 2 hours of braising, 1 hour of seasoning, crisping, barbecue saucing, whatever you want to do for that last hour. It dries them up, pulls the meat further from the bones, and these things will be delicious. So the first thing we're going to do, get these opened up and we're going to prep them. All right, so to prep the ribs, all we really need to do is remove this silver skin or membrane from the back of it, and then we're going to go ahead and season them up. You'll see a lot of different techniques for doing this. A lot of them work. I tend to like to use a spoon, and I'm going to try to show how to do this. You look for any spot where the membrane is lifting up a little bit between the bones, and then I just take a spoon and I slide it in there with my finger, and I'm trying to pull up on the membrane. Let me turn this up so you can see it. Notice how I'm pulling this up a little bit? I do it near the end, work one end free, and then all you want to do is grab a paper towel. I'm just going to use a napkin here, but grab a paper towel and you want to pull, and that whole membrane will just come right off of there. You use the paper towel because it's slippery otherwise. Can't even, I gotta get another one. And that's it. You pull the membranes right off that way. All right, let's get these seasoned up. Now, if you want, you can also trim these if you see like a little bit of additional fat on them. Quite frankly, these are trimmed really well from the store the way they were. And you can use whatever your favorite rub is on these particular ribs. I'm gonna just use a pretty simple thing that everybody's gonna likely have in their house. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of garlic. You definitely need the sprinkle side of that. Whoa, that was heavy right there. And in our house, we really like this Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, so we use this for some additional seasoning on most things we do. Heck, even the little one likes this stuff. That's it. You want to take this and you want to flip it over. Now, you'll see, oh, by the way, pat it a little bit just to kind of help hold it down. You will see some people will do this where they apply a binder. They put either mustard or vinegar or something on it first. And the reason is so that the seasoning sticks to the ribs. These are nice and moist, and I'm not necessarily a fan of that really vinegary taste of mustard on ribs, so I'm not going to do that. Again, just salt, pepper. And I'm not going too heavy on this stuff. I really want to taste the ribs, quite frankly. Do garlic. Trying to sprinkle this one a little bit more light this time. And some Tonys. I go a little heavier on the Tonys for sure. That's going to help with the color as well. Just repeat that and do it on both sets of ribs. I think we're good here. Let's go ahead and get the smoker on and we'll get these set up. All right, we're just checking everything out right here. I'm going to leave my sear grates closed. I've got the competition blend pellets in here. I think those are pretty good. Normally if I was doing ribs, I like to do an applewood, but just not in the mood to change the pellets today, and quite frankly, it still tastes great. So we're gonna get this thing set on the smoke setting. We wanna start with our first 3 hours between about 180 and 200 degrees. On the PitBoss, if you're in the S setting, the smoke, that's usually about the temperature it is. That can be adjusted a little bit with what they call their P settings, but this is not rocket science. It's gonna be okay if it's off by 5 or 10 degrees. This is a pretty forgiving recipe, and it's as simple as that 3-2-1. So yeah, forgiving. Let's get this thing kicked on. Power on and smoke. All right, so the grill is up to 190 degrees right now. It's kind of going between 190 and 195. So let's go ahead and get the racks on here. Now, on this particular PitBoss, the fire pot's dead center, so I'm gonna lay the ribs longwise on either side. I don't want it right over the fire pot just because that's gonna be a hot spot and we'll probably crisp them up. I don't want that to be the case. We're gonna put them bone side down and just let these guys smoke. We'll come check on these in 3 hours. That's the 3 in 3, 2, 1. All right, it has been 3 hours and a couple of times during that 3-hour cook, I did open it up and I have a little spritzer bottle. Normally you'd want to use apple juice or apple cider. I actually just used a little bit of red wine vinegar and some water. Feeling a little bit of mist here, so let's go ahead and get these guys wrapped and we'll start our 2-hour process. So we're going to open this up. These look real good. I'll show you what they look like up close here in just a second. Got a nice amount of smoke going on these guys. Hold this so it doesn't drop. These look pretty good. I'm gonna bring them in on the counter and just get them wrapped up for our next phase. So we've got these ribs out. They're not too hot, so I'm gonna show you what they look like. You can see they got a nice little smoky edge on the whole thing. Great color along here. Just starting to pull back from the tip of the bones, but not much. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start our second phase, which is all about braising these. So I'm gonna set these aside and I'm gonna cut some butcher paper. If you don't have butcher paper, you can use foil. As a matter of fact, if you use foil, one of the things to do is you pour about a half a cup of apple juice down inside of it. It really kind of braises them and steams them in their own juice. Matter of fact, you know what? I'll do one in butcher paper and one in foil. All right, when we do this, we want to lay them bone side up. So you'll notice I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it this direction. The reason being is I have this great little area to put all of my seasonings on, and that's going to be essentially brown sugar and a little bit of apple cider. Additionally, it keeps it from poking these down through the foil when you wrap it, so kind of a good way to do it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to spritz this whole thing with a little bit of this apple cider. If you don't have apple cider, you can easily use red wine vinegar and water mixed together. You could use orange juice. You can almost use any kind of juice. It's just there to help moisten it up a little bit. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of brown sugar back here, not a whole lot. This is probably about a teaspoon and a half or so. Now, I am going to turn it over and just get a little bit on this side because I love the way this, if you sprinkle it lightly, what ends up happening is this sort of almost turns into a glaze. It's amazing. Again, very little. I don't want a whole lot on there. Turn it back over. I'm going to spritz this down again. And now what you're doing is you're just going to build a little bit of a, oh, I don't know, like think of it like a little bit of a container almost. So fold up the sides and the ends. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to kind of wrap it up here and seal this up. I'm just rolling that a little bit. You don't have to pack it tight up against the ribs. That's not necessarily something you got to do. I'm going to take this side, twist it and fold it over. And now I'm going to take just a little bit of my apple juice and I'm going to pour it right inside of here. I would say 1/4 to a 1/2 cup per rack of ribs, more than enough. And you can get creative on this. You can take your apple juice and season it up with all kinds of seasonings, including the brown sugar, and just make almost like a glaze and pour it in there. So there you go. We've got one ready to go. That's going to go right back on the smoker just like that. This one I'm going to do in our butcher paper. So I'm just spritzing this one after I put it on the butcher paper here. This one's a little thicker than the other one. There seems to be a lot more rib meat, more loin meat on that. That's the front side of baby back ribs is actually the loin where they cut the pork chops and the pork loins out of. All right, went ahead and did that. We're gonna do just like we did on the other one. We're gonna take a little bit of this brown sugar and we're gonna sprinkle it on here. Do some on the back like I mentioned. And I'm gonna do a little bit on the front. Now the difference between doing this in foil versus doing it with the paper, the foil is going to truly steam these things inside of in the juices. When you do it in paper, it does let some of the moisture out. You'll find you have a little bit more of a bark when you do it with the paper as opposed to the foil. So I'm just going to take this, wrap up these two sides here, and then I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to fold this side over. Now the difference with this one, I'm going to put this one that direction when it goes on the grill, just to help hold the paper down. All right, we're going to put these back on the grill for the second phase of this cook. Remember, this is called a 3-2-1 cook. We started with 3 hours on smoke between 180 and 200 degrees. We're now about to do the braise phase, which is phase 2, the 2 part of 3-2-1, and that's going to be 2 hours at 225. So let's get these suckers back out on the grill. All right, as I mentioned, we're back here at the smoker. We're going to get this cranked up now to 225. And we're just going to get these guys placed right on here. I Got the paper on this side, and we're gonna do the braising ones on this side. It'll be fun to taste the difference in these two. We're at 225, it's only sitting at 190 right now, so it'll take a little bit of time just to get that temperature back up, and we'll be back in 2 hours. So at the end of our 2-hour phase, we went ahead and opened up the ribs. We opened up the foil, and we turned the ribs. Remember, they had them wrapped with the curved side up. We just basically pulled it to the side on the grill, put the tongs in them, and turned them right over on the grill, pulled the foil out. We then unwrapped the ones with paper, did the same thing, and we put them back in for another 1 hour. That's the one phase of 3-2-1 rib method. We just took a little bit of barbecue sauce with a brush, and we brushed on it a thin glaze. I don't like big, heavy, thick, sticky ribs. I like them to have a lot of the meat flavor, a little bit of barbecue sauce on them, and that's it, just a nice little glaze. That last hour at 225 degrees, gets them nice and tender. It gets that outside crisp again, and if you do put some kind of barbecue sauce or glaze on it, it just sort of finishes that off wonderfully. We actually had friends come over, and it's the reason why I didn't actually film us pulling them off the grill. I should have. My apologies, I didn't. But here we are, a couple hours later. We all sat down, we ate, had a great meal with friends, enjoyed ourselves. But I gotta tell you, it's a few hours later. Everybody's left. I've got 2 bones with me right here, and they're phenomenal. I mentioned before that I was going to do these 2 different ways, one wrapped in foil and one wrapped in paper. And it's really interesting. The ones that were in foil, where we added in some of that apple juice down inside of it, they steamed and braised in that juice, and they became so much more tender. And at the end of our 2-hour braising period, and we took it out of the foil, and then we took the other one out of the paper one, we obviously didn't have the liquid in there. There was still quite a bit of liquid from the ribs in it, but they were definitely a drier texture. I don't mean dry as in negative, I mean drier than ones that were just braised. But when you touch the top of them, you could tell that the ones that were in the liquid were a little bit more tender than the others. So after that hour, we took them both out. We had everybody try them. Everybody liked both, but there's definitely a different texture. So if you like your ribs to be fall off the bone, think more like pulled pork almost, right? You take a bite of it and the vast majority of the meat comes off the bone. That's what you're gonna get with that braising method. If you like to have a bit of a bite, right? You want them to stick a little bit to the rib and you wanna chew on it and chew a bit. I don't mean something chewy, but it sticks to the rib. You can actually see the difference here. If I were to show you, here's my baby back, and you can see how it just sort of pulls apart. Forget these have been sitting for a few hours. Just sort of pulls apart real easy. Whereas the ones in the paper, they definitely have a more formed and structured base to them. But man, you can see a pink ring deep into these things. So they're super easy to do. It's the 3-2-1 method, and they're phenomenal. So I'm gonna start with the ones that were braised. Really good flavor. They're tender. Not so much rub that it's overpowering. I want to taste the pork. I don't want to taste all the rub only on there. I will tell you, having eaten these with our friends when they were over before, they certainly were even more tender when they were still warm. So now we're going to do the one that was wrapped in butcher paper, and you'll notice the difference. When I go ahead and bite this, you'll see a difference here as well. How this thing, it sort of sticks to the bone a little bit more. It's a little bit more meaty. It's still tender, but sticks right to the bone, just delicious. I can't tell you which one I like better, by the way. They're both good for different reasons. Right now, a couple hours later, I'm actually enjoying these ones that were wrapped in paper. They're a little bit more bite to them, a little bit thicker, if you will, a little bit more held together. But earlier when I ate them, I preferred the other one. So again, they're both good. Either method you do, you can't go wrong. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you again next Tuesday on another grilling video, and I hope you try these 3-2-1 smoked ribs. If you do, please put a comment down below and tell us how they turned out, and if you did any interesting variations to your recipe. Bye y'all, safe and happy grilling.